Matt, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I had my virtual background loaded and it disappeared. So, oh, there it is. It moved on me. There we go. Now we're good. Now we're legit.
There you go. Well, we get a glimpse into the Matt man cave there for a moment, for a hot minute.
It's a cave. Yep.
Maybe we'll talk about your baseball paraphernalia
Sure.
if we have extra time at the end. But let's talk about J&J. So you are a marketer for one of the world's largest and most iconic companies, iconic brand. You personally have had a number of roles at Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah.
Can you share with the viewers today a little bit about your career path, specifically how you made a very interesting pivot from finance into digital marketing?
Yeah, sure. So I've been at J&J for over 15 years, which is getting weirder and weirder to say out loud as the years go by. But I started in finance, as you mentioned. I spent my first 6.5 years or so in finance, went to grad school while I was in finance, though, as I realized I wanted to be more on the commercial side of things. But the big jump for me into marketing was really when I realized the advice I give everyone, and I'll give anyone who's considering a career change or doing something different, is not apologizing for your background. When I really realized I could bring together marketing and finance, it was really the unlock for me. And what I do now, and I've been in our marketing organization for about 10 years now, it's really bringing together math and magic. I like to think of it, especially in the digital age. The ability to use data and measure and optimize is really that analytical side that I've been able to still tap into. But it's really an and today in the marketplace. You have to still break through creatively, connect with consumers, have insights. So that's really been my path here. And I've had 10 different jobs in 15 years, and we'll see what I do next here, but it's been definitely a wild ride.
Yeah, you have an extensive list of roles on your LinkedIn page, and it's
Yeah.
it's interesting to see the trend, how you move from one step to the other. And as somebody who essentially grew up as an applied math and statistics person, I can definitely relate to the mixture of math and magic. So that's I can relate. Talk about some of the brands in your portfolio at J&J.
Yeah, so some of the brands in our skin health business, we have a really robust and diverse set of brands. So we have Neutrogena is our biggest brand out on the West Coast, along with Clean and Clear and Rogaine. And then on our East Coast business, I support our baby franchise, which is brands like Johnson's, Aveeno Baby, Desitin, and then Aveeno and Lubriderm as well in our business. So huge range, a lot of different consumers we serve, a lot of different need states. It's a really interesting space we have, and a lot of lot of products.
So obviously very different from the segment that preceded us with the folks from the North Face. Or with Peter from the North Face. But so in your business, in the skin health business, what are some of the trends impacting your category?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the trends happening in our category, you see in other categories, but a big one, especially in skincare, is the democratization of expertise. So we see a lot of, what consumers are looking for from brands. They're not necessarily looking to brands, but they're looking to different voices. So that's led us to thinking differently about, who's delivering messages on our behalf, where are they looking for that information, and depending on where they are on their journey as a consumer, are they looking for reviews from other consumers? Did this work for them? Are they looking for a dermatologist to give them a recommendation if it's a little bit more of a clinical sort of question they have? And then, moms for baby is obviously other moms is a huge segment for us. And then, publishers, traditional, people are still looking to different publishers for information and content. So that's a huge trend for us. And I think, coupled with that is just on-demand expectations. Consumers, and this is across the entire marketplace, but consumers have been trained to be able to get what they want when they want it. And then on top of that, a personalized experience. So I think, that's acutely true in the beauty space where, everyone's different, everyone has different needs, and they're really looking for solutions for them. And that's something we have to relate to. We can't just put out one 30-second TV ad a year and call it a day, but we have to think about the unique needs of our different consumer segments.
So do you, as a digital marketer, do you want to be there in that space when a consumer is reaching out and looking for information, looking for expertise? I would imagine that you would like to be sort of a consultative force to provide that information for them. Then they're more inclined to connect with your brands.
100%. I mean, more than ever, if you can't deliver value, I mean, that's the thing, is I think consumers are looking for that response. It's not a one-way conversation anymore. They have the ability to reach out. They're expecting, if they were to, see an ad or click on an ad, maybe they land on a website or a certain experience, that they're getting something back in return of value. And, there's so many choices today that's what differentiates brands. I mean, it's the ability to really meet that need. So yeah, if somebody is reaching out and looking to engage, that's a huge opportunity for a brand. And given the volume of messaging that people are bombarded with, to actually have that opportunity, if you don't deliver on that, that's just not only, it's a missed opportunity, it's a bad experience, frankly.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what do you think about your audiences? And, I think you've touched upon it already. So yes. It's the, natural segue from what we were talking about to how do you think about your audiences, and as a result, what media channels are you focused on?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be starting with the consumer. Like, where are they? Like, where is the attention, and who can I connect with in different environments? And I think what's really interesting now is how the data environment's changing now, with partnerships becoming a really big trend that we're seeing in the marketplace, where retailers are partnering with media networks. You see Kroger and Roku, and as one example, I think, that came out last year, and different publishers partnering up and finding ways to create different value propositions for advertisers. That we're going to see a lot more of that, I suspect, but that's a challenge and an opportunity at the same time, for us to tackle. I think what's really a challenge in all of that is you don't get too over your skis on this, and don't get uncoordinated. You have to make sure that all this is working together, and with a lot of audiences in the marketplace, different media channels, it can be really easy to start duplicating your reach or bidding against yourself if you're not careful. So really having a keen eye towards the audience management discipline of all this has just gotten more and more important as our the data we're using is becoming more and more sophisticated, frankly.
When you talk about data and you talk about partnerships, does that tie a little bit back to, like, when you think about Roku and Kroger, right? Like something that two organizations that you wouldn't naturally think would come together. Does that fall for you into your category of, don't be afraid to test something out?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, this stuff changes literally every day. And I think it moves so fast that everything's not going to work. You have to realize that really quick when you get into this, but the learning, the figuring out what's working, what's not working, understanding the value, that is a constant, like, hygiene sort of process that organizations need to engage in on some level. You don't want to test with 100% of your budget, of course. You don't want to, that's risky. You got to keep the lights on, but finding an appropriate sort of amount to consistently be pushing the envelope in different directions. Yeah, that's something we talk a lot about. We strive to do, and really, standardize how we approach that, especially in a big organization like J&J. It wouldn't be great if we were testing something on Neutrogena and then we weren't telling our friends that work on the Tylenol business how it went for us. So that's something we're also really mindful of how we're approaching.
Makes sense. Big changes are underway with consumer privacy and targeted advertising, especially, or obviously, I suppose, with cookies going away. Mm-hmm. Being a digital marketer, how are you approaching this change?
Yeah, this is huge. This one also seems like it changes a lot and continues to. So part of that is testing and figuring out the solutions that are coming out. So like first, just a bridge from your last question, having, testing all the different solutions that are coming our way between flocks. Now those are going away. So they're topics with Google. Okay, we have to see how that works. That's a big part of it. But I think if you go beyond just, first party data and that change, I think it's, how do we get consumers to actually engage with us and create a reason for them to volunteer their data for us? How do they, come into our environment and us provide a personalized solution to them? That's the bigger objective, I would say, here as data privacy changes really take hold. It's coming, it's moving, but it's a when, not an if at this point. How do we create an experience where they want to come and find out something or find the right product for them, make it consultative, really create value exchange. We do this on Neutrogena with our Skin 360 technology. Consumers are able to go to a website through an app, through their phone, through a website, scan their face and get recommendations on what the best products for them are. That's a great experience. And that's a way that we're solving a consumer problem. We know that it's a confusing category and people are looking for, the right solution for them. Everyone's a little bit different. So if we can create those types of experiences, it bridges some of that data and privacy gap, because the problem with, privacy, and if you were to violate that, is it's not welcome. But if you come to a consumer with a solution, who's not looking for that? If you can create something that's truly valuable and benefiting them in their moment of need, it really elevates the relationship from transactional to, something better than that.
Yeah, we spoke last week a little bit about that too, about the, a breach in privacy is not welcome. We also talked a little bit about the irony of cookies going away at a time where I think the pendulum is shifting towards consumers being comfortable sharing more data about themselves so that they can have a more personalized experience. And that connects to what you're talking about.
I mean, I think they just want to know why, right? It's like, if I'm telling you, tell me this, and I'll make a product recommendation for you, or, or whatever, give you a recipe or whatever business you're in, tell me some information and I'll tell you something back that you care about. I think that's it's simple as that. We make it a lot more complicated than maybe it needs to be, but just being overt about why I'm asking for this information. I think there's some really good examples with apparel. When you see, you go to a website and tell me your size, and then I'm going to filter out the products we don't have in stock for you, or here's some combinations that you may be interested in. That's a good experience. It can be as simple as that. It doesn't always have to be like a facial scan technology or anything like that.
Right. Sometimes I was just going to say, sometimes it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about industry trends. Industry trends, and notably media industry trends, certainly accelerated during the pandemic. Have you been reallocating spend to other channels, and is it safe to assume that streaming TV is part of that mix?
Yeah, I mean, we do what the consumer tells us to do at the end of the day. If they're moving their behavior, we're moving our spend. Simple as that. And it's all about attention. So as we've seen attention shift away from traditional channels, linear television, into things like streaming, other social platforms, TikTok's obviously grown, other platforms have grown. We've absolutely looked at that, and it's really about balancing with what makes sense and based upon our objectives. But streaming's definitely played a role. I think there's a lot of really interesting capabilities there, given our ability to better target media, create different personalized experiences. Again, it's definitely a little bit more of an advanced environment versus traditional linear. But again, it's people still watch a lot of TV, so it's not all or nothing. But I think it's finding that right balance for the brand and our objectives.
So in terms of finding balances and objectives for the brand, what are the key priorities for you and your team in 2022?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, at a macro level, I think everyone's thinking about how do we accelerate e-commerce, and that's a huge one for us. We've seen a lot of growth. I think everyone's seen a lot of growth over the last 2 years. But the question now is, how do we do more than just ride that wave? How do we really step change and outpace our competition in the digital space, the e-commerce space? The volume of sales moving online, more influence happening on digital channels. We have to think through that lens first in a lot of cases. So how are we starting from an e-commerce first place? And it's cutting across more than just media. It's how we're thinking about our assortment, our innovation, our digital shelf, really everything within our mix. And what's enabling this too is what we're also looking to build is more of a performance culture. As we have more data at our disposals, we get more feedback from the marketplace. How are we creating the capabilities to and really building those marketing muscles to optimize our creative? So traditional media construct has been launching campaigns, hoping people buy it, lighting prayer candles, checking back in a couple months and seeing how it does. Now we're looking to be more of an always on sort of optimization engine. Tough to do in a big CPG, but that's really what we're charged with doing on my team and across our org. So I think that at a macro level is really something we're looking to achieve. And, while it's challenging, it's absolutely something we're committed to.
You can see why somebody like you is sitting in the seat that you're sitting on, because you're speaking a language that I would imagine is refreshing and important for a company that's been around for 130 years. And so just the longevity of the organization and the ability to pivot into the world that we're living in, and your leadership for your category is absolutely key to the ongoing success at J&J. That wasn't a question, by the way.
I hope so. Yeah. Yes.
An easy question, a layup.
Yeah.
Let's pivot to your newsletter. For those of you that who are viewing today who have not signed up for Matt's Hot Take, I highly recommend this. I was exposed to it the last couple of weeks when I found out I'd have a chance to speak with you. But I mentioned refreshing. I mean, you have a balance of curating relevant content with a very personalized perspective on media trends, which resonated, for me personally. It's refreshing, engaging. So you've written about a lot of trends, from what I can tell in the variety of newsletters that you have archived. But which ones that you've written about are you watching most closely?
Yeah, there's a couple, and we've touched a little bit on this, but I think the biggest one that I'm watching this year is really just retail media becoming media and us looking at this holistically, for a number of reasons. Data privacy is a big one. They hold an enormous amount of data at the retailer level. E-commerce is growing, and just the performance capabilities. I sit at a large CPG. We don't have a lot of DTC capabilities, but we can see performance data with a lot of our retail partners. So that's incredibly powerful from a insights perspective, as well as obviously driving sales. These channels are maturing and scaling, and I think we're going to see them start competing more with the Facebooks and Googles of the world for brand dollars. We've seen this in Amazon. They're over 10% of the media environment now, and we're gonna see more of this grow with Target, Walmart, and others really maturing as media networks. I think Walmart just reported literally minutes ago like $2 billion in advertising sales last year. So it's big. A couple other ones I think are really interesting to watch. Creators get talked a lot about. I think the thing to watch there is if they start taking agency dollars. As brands need more content across digital channels, there's some incredibly talented people doing amazing things out there, and it's a different way of working for sure. But I see more brands doing this. You see it in the marketplace more. It makes a lot of sense from a P&L perspective. It's a different way to invest dollars and usually more efficient. So I see that happening. Omni-channel is a big one. As we think about e-commerce, some of the stats that really stick out to me are there are 9 touch points on a consumer's journey now, and 60% of digital sales are influenced by visits to physical stores. So really it goes both ways. People are checking their phones, they're showrooming, but they're also, buying in store as well. They're doing a lot. It's going in both directions. So as digital customer acquisition costs have increased dramatically over the last couple of years, and there's a ton of options for consumers, brands and retailers just need to show up kind of everywhere with excellence, and that's a big challenge. But that's what's going to win the day, I think, for a lot of brands and retailers, is kind of making that online and physical presence really worth it and intentional. Those are a couple of the big ones. We can talk about live streaming, and people like to talk about that, but quick take on that: it either lives or dies this year. Too much investment, not enough scale yet, but I think I've been wrong on this. I thought I was going to scale last year. It didn't. So to hold myself accountable, got it wrong, but I'm giving it one more year before I give up on it.
Well, like, one of the things that leads to great success is not being afraid to get one or two things, be off on a couple of things here and there, right? But going back to the omni-channel experience, would you say that the brick and mortar is making a comeback? Not specifically to, like, going to a store and making a purchase, but going to a store and getting educated and having an opportunity to touch and feel and experience a brand.
I'll qualify it. I think good brick and mortar is making a comeback. I think bad experiences are going to die. So you don't go into a store to just buy anymore. You don't need to. I can go on my phone and in seconds have something on my doorstep from Amazon or Target or whatever. People go to stores to learn more, to touch and feel. And I think that's what you're seeing reflected in some of these store redesigns. Walmart's announcing theirs, where they have different features where you can see online inventory and get demos. You see it in a lot of different channels that are really, changing how they approach the space. There's, Best Buy famously went in this direction a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, but really focusing on the different categories and service to get you experts to help you pick the right television or the right oven. And it's worked really well for them. It's a good experience if you need to buy appliances. Best Buy is not a bad place to do it. I think you're going to see more of that. But yeah, the bad retail experiences, I think, are going to continue to die a long and painful death.
Well, it's interesting because I can make a correlation to, streaming TV and creative there, because I think what we've seen over the years is people have the choice to turn off one media and select another one. And certainly with streaming TV and non-skippable ads, that people do not want to be forced to watch bad creative from a client. And so I would, so sort of in parallel to that, I would say, like, bad creative is also, I would suggest, obviously interested in your take, but I think I know the answer. Bad creative is also dying, but great creative, there's great. Look at the Super Bowl creative. That's the investment involved to develop great creative is very rich.
Yeah, I even though I'm like the digital guy and those tools are incredibly powerful, creative is what works. If it's boring but well targeted, you'll forget it or ignore it. So it doesn't matter. You could have the best plan in the planet, best retargeting, whatever. If your creative sucks, no one's going to remember you. No one's going to buy you. And we know from the data that creative drives most of the ROI. And especially now with so many messages, you have to break through. So it's both. It's an and. You have to get it right. And to your point, Super Bowl just happening a couple days ago. The ads people remember and will take action on aren't the ones that were best targeted to them. None of them, I guess, were really targeted to them, but maybe it's a bad example. Go with me on it. The ones you remember are the ones that struck a chord with you, made you feel something, made you laugh, think, feel. The boring ones wasted $7 million.
There were a couple that we had some things that we were thinking about talking about today, and this is not one of them. So
that's fine. We're
riffing
there
a little bit, but one that stood out to me was Sopranos. The return of Meadow. So that was fun to watch. But then the other one, and maybe this kind of does pivot us back into the future of media conversation, but the other one that got a lot of buzz and I think maybe broke down the internet a little bit was the Coinbase QR code, right? So did you scan it?
I did. I was one of the 20 million people in 1 minute. That's 14 million dollars because it was a minute long. That's a pretty good lead gen rate. I feel like that's not bad. Yeah, they crashed their website. I'm actually writing about this in my newsletter tomorrow. So if you want the full hot take, check it out. But I love that ad. It got last place on the ad meter, which I thought was funny. But it got 20 million people to do something during a Super Bowl. Like, that's pretty impressive. What stuck out to me was, one, they were laser focused on what they wanted to achieve. It was all about driving people to their website. That's it. We talk a lot about having singular vision and creative. Doesn't get more singular than just floating a QR code for 60 seconds. Holy smokes. Took some cojones in that marketing team, but credit to them for doing it. And they made it really, really easy. And there's a value exchange. You got $15 of free Bitcoin if that's your thing. So there was a reason to stick around and sign up. I thought it was really well done. I liked that one a lot. It's polarizing, but yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I agree. I literally, I think the 60 seconds that I was laser focused on what was going on the TV was
Yeah.
that 60 seconds. What's going on? Oh, somebody's doing something interesting
Yeah.
here.
They did it, and it was way more than awareness building, which was smart, because you see so much awareness building during the Super Bowl, and it was, really driving that engagement and, moving people into their brand, which was cool.
So does that resonate with, does that kind of sort of pivot some of the things that you're thinking about now into, for you and your brands? I mean, you've probably dabbled in QR codes already.
Sure.
And in fact, I know that you have, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it acknowledges that the consumer journey goes beyond just one touch point, which I think is really smart. And that's what I loved about it. And other brands did this as well. But and you see the flip side of it, if people didn't try to pay it off on the other end. There's an interesting article about brands conquesting off of advertising brands on things like Instacart and Walmart and Target. There was a pretty interesting article this week, some research that showed the brands that didn't essentially increase their search bids during the Super Bowl and got conquested by competitors, because when people see something, they're going to hopefully take an action. And I think that's a really good lesson for us and any marketer to really realize is, what's the next step on that consumer journey? Am I going to meet them there? Am I going to be able to deliver on that promise? And some brands do, some brands don't. But I think that's the real lesson with the Coinbase ad, is kind of thinking those next couple steps down the line. They explicitly are pushing you down the line, but it's definitely something to think about.
That's an interesting take to think about, like how one ad could lead to conquesting situations. So
Yep.
I'll be interested to hear more of that. Maybe more in the Matt's hot take. So
Read tomorrow.
read tomorrow. I'll be there. So I was speaking of which, kind of pivot into some fun things. But your hot take I mentioned is it's personalized, including some pop culture references.
Oh yeah.
That you've made there. I've seen things from Pitbull to Love Actually was mentioned at one point. Yep. And then some binge-worthy shows also, like Selling Sunset. So
Love.
What are you, I figured I'd ask you to throw out there, what are you watching? What are you binge watching?
Love reality TV. We all have busy, demanding jobs, and I love turning my brain off and watching the Housewives franchise, obviously. Very into that. Excited for the Salt Lake City finale coming up. Selling Sunset's been great. I binge worthy. I don't know if it's binge worthy, but Ozark, I'm excited that came back. Not reality TV, probably not binge worthy. That's a heavy watch, but I'll watch whatever. I love TV. I make time for it. It's a good. You gotta just relax at night.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good to hear. I mean, I think that the TV watching experience has really come full circle and made a comeback. And I mean, I know we see a lot of that in terms of in our environment, and people engaged in the content that that our partners are serving up. So it's good to see. I mean, the reason that people, there's a lot of talk about when is the golden age of TV. There was a golden age of TV at one point, and then it feels like it kind of went away, and now it kind of feels like it's coming back because people are. Yeah. There's more water cooler program. We're watching it differently, and we're not forced in all situations to wait a week at a time. But you could very easily, and many people have. It's not particularly original, but this does feel like very much a golden age of TV because people love what they watch.
I think so. I think you're right.
So I think as we approach the end of our segment today, this whole this whole event from Brand Innovators is about the future of media. So maybe sort of funneling everything that we've talked about into the short-term future of media. What are you personally most excited for this year that either we've talked about it or maybe there's something we missed?
Yeah, I mean, I think to boil it down, what I'm most excited about is seeing, this is going to sound funny because it's like in my title, but seeing digital marketing as a term get one step closer to being killed. We need to stop thinking about it as something different and embrace it as just marketing. The challenge, though, that we're going to face is it's an and. We can't also forget about all the traditional marketing, and we have to understand the fundamentals like insights and who your consumer is, and the P's and all the traditional marketing stuff. It's an and. You have to really think about it together. And I think if we can combine traditional marketing with the tools that the digital world has given us, brands will be much better off and marketers will be much more successful. So that's something I'm really looking forward to, and I think we're getting closer. And honestly, just at a macro level, how the industry changes this coming year. We've seen unbelievable change in the last 2 years and beyond, but I'm really just fascinated by this. It's why I write about it, because the market does change so often. My newsletter was born out of just me trying to keep my team up to speed on the goings on in the industry, and kind of spiraled from there. But this stuff changes every day, so I'm really curious to see what happens next, and if this year is half as innovative and different as the last year or two. I think we're in for a lot of change.
All right. Well, this is good stuff. It's good. It's good to talk with you. It's good to read your newsletter. Your passion about media and future trends is contagious. So, I guess so I said maybe if we had a couple extra minutes on the back end, we might talk about some personal interests. So I think we have media, we have the future of media. How about the future of baseball? The your Pittsburgh Pirates. What do you think is going to happen there? Well, first we need to lock in a season, but once we lock in a season, you got baseball predictions for 2022?
Nothing good for my Pirates. They're not going to look too good this year. I hope we get baseball back. I hope it comes with a salary cap as a Pirates fan. But no, I love baseball. It's one of my passions. Now, I think we'll see if this is the year San Diego gets together. I think they could be. That's my World Series pick for you. The Padres.
All right. Sounds like a good one. I mean, it's easier. It's easier to make a sports betting app than it used to be. So maybe we'll have to put a couple of dollars on that. Is that? I mean, I don't. I'm guessing that's not the growth of that segment has not directly impacted your business, but certainly has been a trend to watch, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, not in our space, but
not yet.
Not yet. We'll see.